Here we go again, boys and girls. Yo, what's going on, people? Welcome on back to Football Therapy with me, your host Jan. I do hope you guys are all doing well. I really do hope that. Welcome back to Chelsea news of sorts. Talking about Antonio Conte to Tottenham. Oh my giddy aunt. Few things to discuss there. And we're going to jump in and pose a question that's actually quite difficult to answer. It is difficult to answer. What's Chelsea's best starting 11? How do we play well? We're top of the Premier League, sure, but like via often dysfunctional charm up front. So we're going to talk about getting the most out of that midfield and attack. 2 midfielders, 3 midfielders. Who are the 2? If it is just 2, who misses out? Who misses out? Yeah, lots to talk about. Get comfortable, settle in. I'd urge you guys to subscribe to this channel, Football Therapy, if you're new to the experience. Daily content, of course, normally. And if you want to show some sweet love, drop a like. And you are all, of course, welcome to hang out with me on the daily live streams on twitch.tv/Jansyard. I'll put a link down in the description so you can come hang out with me playing FIFA 22 and other games. It's wicked. Right, let's get into it. So let's start off with big Antonio Conte, shall we? Another Chelsea Premier League winning manager going to Tottenham Hotspur. Now, of course, Jose Mourinho said he would never coach Tottenham. And what did he do? He went to go and coach Tottenham. Now, Antonio Conte didn't say this so clearly, but he had a really close connection with the Chelsea fans. They'd always sing his name, they'd put Italian banners up, he'd jump in with the fans and celebrate. There was a sort of strong bond there. That's probably why perhaps Maurizio Sarri, who came after, he was very sort of distant from the fans in a way. I think the fact how Conte was so well integrated with the fans, it made Sarri look worse when really he was just being a coach, like working on his work. Anyway, we're not talking about Sarri right now. Conte didn't say, I will never manage the Tottenham, but he did say, I will never forget this colour in one of his last press conferences, kind of pledging allegiance to Chelsea. What's he doing? He's going to Tottenham. But let's be real, boys and girls. Let's be honest. We can all remember how it ended with Antonio Conte at Chelsea with a lawsuit that he won. So it's tricky. Look, it wasn't going well for old Nuno Espírito Santo in North London. In fact, Tottenham this season have run the least, their 20th place for like distance covered. Immediately that's a red flag. That would be a red flag for 20th place Norwich, who are trying to stay up. For a team like Tottenham with their aspirations, that's awful. They're awful for all kinds of stats. Harry Kane just genuinely doesn't look like he wants to be on the pitch. So he had to go. I'm not saying he's an awful coach, but it definitely was a poor appointment for a multitude of reasons. And they've gone back to Antonio Conte, who originally snubbed them in the summer. But somehow they've talked him around this time, and I reckon probably the negotiation terms are a lot more in his favour. In fact, there's an article from Sport Witness insinuating he will get 3 to 4 January signings on top of what is a pretty darn good squad at Tottenham. Now, I don't want to talk about this for too long, but it does worry me because Antonio Conte is a world-class coach. Top 5 in the world, you'd say, and 4 of the 5 are probably now in the Premier League. Well, they absolutely are. He's arriving to a club that have an amazing new training facilities for him to use his world-class coaching abilities on. Obviously an amazing stadium, etc. Good players and the promise of new players on top of that. Yeah, I am kind of worried personally. Like, Tottenham will be good now. They just will be. Antonio Conte does not accept mediocrity. He's won the league every single place he's gone. You know, whether that's Juventus, they were languishing in mid-table for 2 seasons. He made them into a behemoth. They had an invincible season. They hadn't not won a league title until his Inter Milan won the title. And of course, in between, he won the title with Chelsea. He wins the title everywhere. So we have reason to be worried. One thing we can do as Chelsea fans is just believe in the potency of the bottling DNA in Tottenham and hope that just seeps through into Antonio Conte's work. But we have reason to be concerned. So instead, I guess, perhaps, maybe let's just be pleased there's another world-class manager in the league and more competition, I guess. Ugh. Anyway, leave me your comments about Antonio Conte down below. Let's move on and talk about Thomas Tuchel's team, Chelsea, and his lineup. Cool, so Chelsea are, of course, top of the Premier League, sitting 3 points clear, lovely, jubbly. We have an amazing defence. We've conceded 3 goals all season. I think none from open play in the Premier League, if that's correct. Regardless, we're pretty darn good defensively, strong midfield, good attackers, but we're getting lots of goals from defenders. In fact, the majority of our goal scorers are defenders, then we've got some midfielders, and then a couple of forwards. It's not looking great in terms of distribution. Yes, you'd say, yeah, it doesn't matter how they come, as long as the goals come. And you know what? Yes, I agree with you. And more than that, it's kind of cool defenders scoring goals, no? Don't they count more in Fantasy Premier League? Do they count more in real life? Look, Romelu Lukaku is an amazing player, and he should be in our strongest 11, correct? I'd say yes, right? He's our record signing, you'd really hope so, £97.5 million. He's a world-class player, he's just won the MVP, he's a Ballon d'Or nominee, he's got over 100 Premier League goals, all kinds of awards, he's Belgium's top ever goal scorer. It has been for a few years. I think he needs to be utilised correctly, like the aforementioned Antonio Conte used him at Inter, or indeed Roberto Martinez uses him at Belgium, and how he did use him for his Everton team. Plays in that sort of inside right channel, turns well, runs in behind, rather than perhaps a hold-up man like Manchester United used him. So we're not going to get into that now, but that's largely the problem with Lukaku, but let's just assume he's in our strongest lineup. Let's switch up the screen, look on Foothead at some lineups I've built. If we're going to go for a 3-5-2, it has to look like this, with Romelu Lukaku and Timo Werner up front, of course Edouard Mendy in goal, Thiago Silva, Antonio Rudiger and Cesar Azpilicueta. Of course there's very, very strong cases for both Andreas Christensen and indeed Trevor Chalobah now too. Three midfielders in the middle, I'm actually going to go for Ruben Loftus-Cheek, flanked by N'Golo Kante and Mateo Kovacic. Jorginho is amazing, he's UEFA's Men's Player of the Year, and he's such an important player for receiving the ball and releasing it and taking control of a game. But I think when you have three midfielders in, that extra man, you could just about survive without Jorginho, but if it's a two-man, then perhaps you've got problems. You need him in there. So Ruben Loftus-Cheek doing that sort of midfield, deep pivot run, box-to-box new role that he's got that seems to work really well. Flanked by two dribbling interceptors in N'Golo Kante, of course, best at what he does, and Mateo Kovacic, who's having the best season of his life. Really easy with wing-backs, they won't change, and of course they're both in scintillating goal-scoring form. Ben Chilwell and Reece James play in the wing-back positions, and of course you've got Lukaku and Werner up front. Now this is a 3-5-2, but has this worked that well for us? I'm not so sure. And many would argue, to get the best out of Romelu Lukaku, you need those two number 10s in behind him. So let's switch up to a 3-4-3. I'm going to keep the same three defenders, the same two wing-backs, but what do you do with the midfield now? Well, you play Jorginho and Kante for me. Jorginho can be that player who receives the ball and releases it really quickly when you have one less man in midfield to recycle possession quickly and don't get pressed, so you can basically play out of the press. You can't drop Kante because you're going to need someone to mop up, and he's the best in the world at that. So suddenly you've both dropped Chelsea's two most informed midfielders, I don't know, in Kovacic and Ruben Loftus-Cheek. And up front, I guess you have Lukaku, you have to have Mason Mount there. And as an inside number 10, I've put Kai Havertz, who has not been in the best form, but for me, he's such a naturally talented, good player. That's good at setting up and combinational play. That in terms of theory, that front three, Mason Mount, Havertz, Lukaku, is Chelsea's most dangerous, talented and potent front three. But again, Werner misses out, Hudson-Odoi misses out, who's played well recently, and it causes problems. Let's get rid of this screen and talk about this a little bit more. I understand a lot of people will be like, Jan, this is moot point. The idea is you have a lineup for a certain opposition. You have an arsenal of players to look to, and yes, it works, and it's serving us well. But at the same time, if someone asked you what's Chelsea's best lineup, you couldn't do it. But you could do it right now with Man City. You could do it certainly with Liverpool. And when they click together, they're potent and destructive. And Chelsea need a touch of that. No matter how good this sort of ethos and philosophy is of picking and choosing and changing, there still has this element of stagnant lack of chemistry up front. And that often causes huge problems. I think there needs to be an idea of a set of players that can play well together, chemistry-wise, from the midfield and the attack. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit today in this video and pose it to you guys and find out what you guys think. So make sure you do comment on this down below. Yes, we know changing lineups a good thing, but if you had to pick a starting lineup, who would you choose and in what formation? I'm guessing a 3-4-3, but some of you might still think a 3-5-2. Who knows, to get Ruben Loftus-Cheek in there. Let me know. Comment down below on that. And let me know if you've enjoyed this type of video as well. If you have, drop a like. If you haven't, drop a dislike. Just make sure you interact And consider subscribing, and of course I'll remind you I stream daily on Twitch if you want to come out, hang out and talk to me. You're welcome to do that. Alright guys, I'm out. Enjoy the football, and I'll see you later.
You ain't so tough with that bad boy tuck. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought. Body bag the verse, outlined in chalk. In my life seen trouble, hustle on the double. Silence on the trigger like my pick got a muzzle. Yo chick like to guzzle, bad boy stay in trouble. I only love this paper, sorry I don't. I laugh me baby.